Barrie.
Welcome to Educate, Inform, Challenge. My name is Teresa MacLennan, and I'm the Executive Director of the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. We are so happy that you have joined us today. Before we begin, we just want to let you know that we are truly thankful and appreciative of our Indigenous people for allowing us to share in this space, allowing us this space to have our conversations, and we just thank you so much. The goal of our show is to talk about the lives and experiences of women. We do talk about gender-based violence, human trafficking, women in leadership and decision making. And so we're really, really grateful that our community comes alongside us in these conversations, and we just always hope that the information we're sharing will create dialogue in our community so that we can truly end violence against women. So today I am thrilled to welcome my guest, Lacey. And today we're going to be talking about another sensitive topic related to Lacey's personal experience of abuse, and also what happens after you have left that abusive partner in terms of parenting and co-parenting their children. So Lacey, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your life and your story with us. So maybe you could just let our viewers know a little bit about you, all the multiple hats that you wear. There's a lot.
Well, I'm a mother to 5 amazing children.
Yeah.
And I'm a full-time student at Lakehead University for social work program. And I work part-time.
And I would say that you're also an advocate and a spokeswoman for all women, really, who have an experience of abuse. It is really incredible how you are using your voice and your experience to offer hope and education to other women.
Absolutely.
So I think you can add advocate to your resume.
Yeah. And I truly do talk about it whenever I can, whenever I have an opportunity to.
Which we're so appreciative of, because, 10 years ago, women would not be speaking up. They would not be using their voice. So maybe that's a good place for us to start. Do you want to share with the viewers a little bit about your experience of abuse leading up to where you are today?
So I was in a relationship with my partner for about 9 years, on and off. Started very young. Was a teen mom. And the abuse was all of it, the physical abuse, emotional, mental, just tore me to pieces.
And you were able to, at some point, be able to leave that relationship?
There were a couple times I attempted. And I've learned that too, that it's on average 7 attempts for a woman to finally be able to leave her abuser, and that's pretty much roughly, I would probably say I'm close to that 7 attempts that I did try. And one of the times led me here to the Barrie Women and Children's Shelter. It was around 2008, I believe, I came into shelter. And then I did end up having to return to the relationship because he beat me to the courthouse and kept some of the kids. So I returned back to the home and had to figure out another way to plan to leave, but with all of my children.
And I'm really appreciative of that sharing, because yes, we know on average 7 times, sometimes more. And we are going to dive in, I think you and I, in our conversation today about the difficulties that happen in the systems that seem to work against women, like the court system, which you mentioned. So we're gonna dive into that a little bit more today. And so, but we did want to focus and spend a little bit of time really talking about the difficulty not being with that person in a relationship anymore, but still the difficulties and the problems that you run into trying to navigate co-parenting. And so let's back up a little bit, and maybe you could just speak to the knowledge that your children have of the abuse that you were living in. Did they have an understanding then or now about that?
I would say that, yeah, they were aware.
Yeah.
Not to the extent. They were very young, but definitely the oldest three had witnessed some stuff, and you know, they have their own memories and experiences in that, so I can't really share too much about it because that's their story to share too. But yeah, they have their memories and their experiences from it, for sure.
And so as your kids get older, what does your conversations with them now look like? How have you navigated being mindful of their own wellness, but feeling that they need to know some things? Like, what does that look like now?
Now it's pretty open. I mean, they all are older. They're all above the age of 14. So, you know, now they're pretty open conversations.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not protecting him anymore. I refuse to protect him. So when they're asking me questions, or when they're demanding questions, I answer them. I don't just dump it on them, of course. Yeah. But especially when they were younger, too. You know, when they would ask questions, I wouldn't just dump all this information on them.
Yeah. So let's head into the struggle for. Well, let's start with them, and then I know we'll talk about all the difficulties for you in trying to navigate this. What do you feel the struggles are for your children or children in general? Because I know that you have connections with other women who have children who have tried to navigate the same thing. What do you think is the common experience, based on your own knowledge, for the children who have witnessed abuse, who are trying to figure out what that was, and now they're older and they're asking questions? What do you feel all the struggles are for them?
A lot of it had to do with, I guess, confusion and being unsure, because, of course, their father wouldn't admit to things. I mean, over the years, of course, he eventually started admitting to things, you know, to the older ones. But yeah, they've been so unsure of and trust. Yeah. They can't, you know, who do they trust if they can't trust their parents or their father? I think trust is definitely a huge thing for them, and that they struggle with. Yeah,
yeah, and you know, just for our viewing audience, like, we know that children who witness abuse, they can fall into some unhealthy patterns themselves as a way of coping. Depression, anxiety, sometimes school issues, and relationship issues, because their model for what a healthy relationship should look like is distorted.
Yeah.
And would you say that that's kind of what you see in your own experience with your kids?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
Cross it all off. Every little thing is there.
Yeah.
They struggle.
Yeah.
And it's very hard.
I cannot imagine, like, even for women who are trying to navigate leaving an abusive relationship, and then you leave it. And when you did that and you finally got that break, did you feel it in your mind that you were free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I felt it, and yeah, I was like, finally, you know, I'm free, we're free. I get to break that cycle. I get to build a life for me and my children.
Yeah.
A healthy, happy life.
Yeah. And then the reality to that. And so I think that's where we're going to dive in deep, is to talk about what that really looked like. So if you start us off thinking about those early days when you had left that relationship, how did that look at the very beginning? Was there a honeymoon period? Did the abuse in a different way ramp up, look different?
Yeah, it's pretty much still being in an abusive relationship, because there would, there would be, I think maybe actually later on, there was more of a honeymoon stage that would happen. In the beginning, when they were very small, though, there was definitely a lot of power and control. Definitely, like, it was back and forth in court. It was not following court orders just to stick it to me. It was withholding the children, or not picking up the children for his access time, just so he could control what I was doing when I didn't have the kids, because that was pure freedom right there, right? Like, can't have that. So it was, well, I'm not going to take the kids, and now your plans are messed up, or whatever. So yeah, it's a constant working against the tide, I guess. Undermining my parenting. So, I mean, it's difficult enough to raise children in a healthy. But when you're having to co-parent with somebody that is constantly working against you, that just, it makes it impossible, feels impossible.
I can't imagine how difficult that is, because you're trying to create a new outlook for them, a new idea of what living happy, well, safe, and without violence looks like. And then, and you can speak to this, in a bit, is that feeling like your children still have to see him or be in a relationship with him. And those same patterns, those abusive patterns and behaviors are still continuing on his side. And I can see these competing forces. You're trying to create something very new and beautiful for your kids, but you're fighting against the old, the unhealthy, and how difficult that must be to try and navigate that.
It's
incredibly hard. And having to tie in the court system too, which I think it will be really good for us to talk a little bit more about what your personal experience has been in navigating through the court system, because what we do know, and we did say this before, is that the court system can really work against victims of abuse, and sometimes seem like they're really favoring the abuser. And so I think, in a nutshell, would you say that that's been your experience?
He would, for sure. It was him never being held accountable for anything. At all.
And that's a heavy load for you to carry in trying to make him accountable for what he's doing, right? And so there is just so much great information that you're sharing and that we're talking about today that we're going to just unpack so much more. And so we really hope that our viewers will stay with us. Let's stay on this path with Lacey and really hear about her journey and how she is supporting her children the best way that she can in an extremely difficult situation. And we know that there may be women listening right now who are also experiencing this. And so we really just hope that you can gather some information and learning from our discussion today. So stay with us. We will be right back, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back. And again, we're talking with Lacey today. We're talking about her experience of abuse, but what happens after you leave that abusive relationship, but still trying to navigate co-parenting. And so we're going to circle back to this great conversation. And Lacey, we're just so thankful of you talking with us today, sharing your experience and your story. So let's pick back up in talking about the impact of the abusive relationship you were in on your children. Are all of your kids in the same space and thinking about their father? And how do you try and help them to navigate through that? So, because I should imagine we all want to have a great relationship with our parents. And the difficulty when they don't treat you the way you want to be treated, or it's unhealthy. But as a kid, so hard to understand.
Yeah.
So where are your kids all at different places?
Yes, very much. Yeah. So they, they've all experienced it differently, and they have been moving through it differently. You know, you have some that are holding on to hope, you know, just as I did when I was with him. You know, you hold on to that idea of he's going to change for you. He's going to, you know, be a better man, whatever, and you hold on to that hope. And I can't even imagine how intensified that gets when it's your father. Because, yeah, you want a relationship with your father, you want a relationship with your parents, and I've worked really, really hard to try to support each of them and meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And there's been some that have made, you know, have a relationship with him, but have boundaries. So some have made that choice for themselves and have good boundaries. And others still struggle.
Yeah. And would you say that that's age related? Like, in terms of the struggle, does it matter if they're older or younger?
No. I feel, I don't think the age matters. I don't really know what it comes down to, but maybe the older ones, I guess, have had more involvement or have been subjected to that kind of stuff a lot longer than, say, the younger ones have. So there's definitely differences.
So I think there's something interesting I want to just ask you about, because when you're in that abusive relationship with the person, and even after, if you're having to co-parent, but when you're in the relationship with that person, you have to navigate that relationship the best that you can for your safety, for the safety of your kids, to be able to carry on with life financially. You know the things to do and not to do that don't create more problems. Do you see your children needing to learn how to navigate that the same way that you did?
Absolutely. And I can say it started when they were very little. They were just children, and somehow they picked up and knew what they had to do to survive through their time with their father.
Wow.
I have memories of them coming home with a song. Mommy's a loser, Mommy's a loser. You know, things that they did that on the weekends with their father. And they did it because it was what got them through their weekend.
Yeah.
You know, it helped them survive their weekend a little bit better.
My goodness, and how challenging for you to try and correct that thinking in them, because I just have to say how difficult and really horrible that is, that as young children, they are having to really navigate an abusive relationship themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's now the relationship that they have with their father. And you would hope that kids will never have to do that.
Yeah.
Because they're born into it. They never asked for it. You know, all those pieces.
Yeah.
And here they are having to be very adult-like in how they have to try and navigate that. So how do you support them in that? How do you help them to see that coming home and singing that song is not appropriate and this is why? And meanwhile, they're still telling you that they want to have a relationship with their father.
It hasn't been easy. I'm sure I've made my fair share of mistakes throughout it. I'm not perfect, but I've always tried to support them the best that I can and support them in continue that relationship with their father. And getting them access to outside supports for counseling, or when they were little, the choices for children.
Yeah.
And then, as they got older,
Does it get any easier to have conversations with them the older that they get? Do they have a deeper level of understanding, do you think?
Yeah. I think it's for sure, absolutely. It's definitely easier. When they were younger and demanding, answers and stuff like that, and maybe sometimes they didn't like what they had to hear.
Yeah.
And then there would be they'd be in denial for a bit, or whatever, or they would go there and then get whatever information they could get out of him, which is most of the time not accurate.
Yeah.
So, it was heartbreaking to watch them be so confused and so untrusting.
And we see that. We see that in women who come to our services. The trust is not there because they put their trust in someone who was supposed to love them. And then that's been defeated for them because that person ended up hurting them. And again, to think about a child who wants a father, a mother, who's going to love them and show them the positive things in life, right? And be good models. Yeah. And then realize how heartbreaking that is for a child to realize that their parent isn't going to be that for them. And it makes me just think about how much you carry on your shoulders to be mindful of your own wellness, but the wellness of your children. You want to try and create healthy adults. And it's a huge amount of pressure.
Huge, yeah.
What I always believe is that as parents, we plant the seeds in our children, and they have to make them grow. And I think in listening to you, Lacey, that you are planting some incredible seeds for your children.
Yeah. I think it's amazing that you just said that, because it's something that I've always said to my kids, is that, I forget how the saying goes, it has something to do with a gardener.
Yes.
The gardener doesn't control the plant, but it creates an environment where that plant can grow. And I tell them that's what I'm trying to do.
You are the gardener.
All I'm trying to do is create that environment for them to grow, however they choose to grow.
And it's such a beautiful thing, and I just got to tell you how much I admire you, and I think you are an incredibly brave, strong, empowered woman. And what I know is that kids know where the right and the wrong is. And as adults, when kids get older, they understand it more. And, it's not uncommon, I'm losing my voice here, but it's not uncommon for us to have women come into the shelter and their children as adults to come in as well, because there's that cycle of violence that continues. Yeah. But everything that you're doing right now and the work that you're doing with your children is breaking that cycle, as difficult as it is.
Yeah, and it has been difficult, and it has been scary too, because I know, and I've had conversations with my older girls too, and statistically, this is a possibility for your future. This is a possibility that you may experience, but I want you to at least try to learn the signs. I want you to hear, I want you to pay attention. And I've always tried to get them to maybe incorporate that just within their own friendships, never mind an intimate relationship, but even just to be able to learn those things in friendships, because it does happen in friendships too, right?
Yeah.
On a smaller scale, it's never, but
So you're trying to think about your kids' wellness. So let's take a couple of minutes to focus on you. So you carry so much, you're trying to navigate so much. We haven't even talked about the court process and how horrific that can be for women. How are you taking care of yourself in everything that you're trying to navigate and manage? How?
It's self-care,
Yeah.
and surrounding myself with other women. You know, going to the groups, being around other women that are going through similar experiences, being able to lean into them every once in a while. You know, it helps. You know, it's not going to take away, you know, that I have to deal with that stuff on a daily basis, but it helps. Counseling, I am still in counseling. I still see my therapist on a regular basis. I would not have been able to get through half of this stuff if I didn't do my counseling. If I didn't, you know, have somebody to vent to and scream to and cry to, and then help me move through those and give me the tips or advice to be able to support my kids through it too.
And to support you. Because, you know, and I'm sure, like, as a parent, you don't want to use your kids to be that sounding board, you know, because you don't want to be talking to them negatively about things they don't need to know about, right? And just, like you said, you want to be where your kids are at and support them where they're starting at. But it definitely sounds like counseling, having a network of people behind you is so crucial, and perhaps maybe living a good life for yourself. And I know that your life, amongst all of the abuse and horribleness, that you're creating an incredible life for yourself.
And I think that's not giving up. Keep going. Keep fighting. Keep friggin' going, because like, once you stop, I feel I'd be afraid to stop and put all, you know.
I would really love to invite you back so that we can have another discussion, because it is so important for our community to hear firsthand from a woman with lived experience. Everything that you navigate, that you have, that people don't know, right? Thank you. And thank you to you, our wonderful audience and viewers. We're so thankful that you have joined us today. And we really hope that if you are a woman who's listening today and you hear Lacey's words and you see how her life has transformed and still the struggles that exist, please have hope. Please know that if you're looking for support, call our crisis line. The number is 705-728-2544. We really hope you'll give us a call. And we are here to support you and your children as well. And just know that you are not alone. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you back here next time. Bye-bye.